Good day. I know you all are familiar with the terrible events that occurred at the Pulse nightclub on June 12, 2016. The newspapers and TV stations were full of the horrors of the incident, and unfortunately, Orlando became known for this event. But the people of Orlando were determined to not let the event define them. And the Orange County Library System was also horrified at the event. So very close to home, right down Orange Avenue from our main library. What you may not know, that we as a library system reacted to what was happening just down the road. On that fateful early Sunday morning, I awoke to all of the news reports of what had happened, about the terrible tragedy that was foisted on the visitors to the Pulse nightclub. I was hoping that none of our employees were there that evening. I did not get any reports from our managers that Sunday, but I came to work with trepidation, hoping against hope that none of our employees had been there. Thank goodness, none of our employees were at the nightclub, but many of them had friends who had sustained injuries. And they were visibly upset that Monday morning. If any of them needed to go home to deal with their grief and loss, we let them go home. I put a message up on our website deploring the incident and sent a message out to our staff as well. Staff quickly assembled a brief resource guide about dealing with grief and loss, and we put this up on our website. As you can imagine, staff felt horrible about this event, and they were talking about what they could do. Some of them wanted to give blood, so any that did, we allowed them to leave to go give blood at any of the blood donor centers. The first segment of my presentation, you will meet the following individuals. Lisa Franchina, who is the president of the Board of Library Trustees and who is a divorce attorney in Central Florida. Ben Garcia is our Marcom award-winning graphic designer. He has won 5 gold and 1 platinum awards for Books and Beyond, our library newsletter. Ted Maines is the former president of the Board of Trustees and a very noted interior designer here in the area. He is a major philanthropist and very active in the arts, the gay, and the Jewish communities. Ken Jaber is the manager of our Hiawassee branch and was also featured in a library journal article about the Pulse tragedy.
The tragedy at the Pulse nightclub had a profound effect on so many lives. Some of our employees had a personal connection to those injured or lost that night. As an organization, our first instinct was, how can we help?
I think everybody in Orlando wanted to step up and do what they could. And quite frankly, I didn't even think about what the library could do initially. But I have to say I was very proud of the staff. I mean, they stepped up right away and thought, well, what can we do to help? And I know that they found titles of materials, books for people coping with these kind of tragedies, which I think was an excellent idea that I wouldn't have even thought of. And I know that they were very supportive of our local LGBT organizations. Clearly we wanted to be a resource in any way that we could be to help people get through this.
As a member of this community, the tragedy of Pulse affected me personally. I lost 3 wonderful friends that day. The amount of support from the Orlando community and my coworkers was overwhelming. As a graphic designer, I was able to contribute my support through art and design, working on projects as the Keep Dancing video, designing Orlando United t-shirts, creating an Epoch ad dedicated to the Pulse victims, participating in Paint Strong Orlando, printing out rainbow banners for the stages, United Orlando banners for all the branches, and most recently, creating designs for Family Pride. Working on all these projects makes me feel like I have contributed to the healing process of our community and making us stronger every day.
It meant a lot to me that the response from the library would be strong on the tragedy that affected our community. As a gay man and as a citizen of Orlando, as a community leader, it meant the world to me that the library responded in the way that it did to help the people that work at the library and the patrons as well.
The library has done a number of things. We created an online LibGuide resource for customers on dealing with tragedy and loss. We also have on our website our book carousel for books, movies, and more, a page called Titles to Help Cope. We have a banner display at our main library in all of our branches with our hashtag Orlando Strong, letting people know that they can come into the library and get more information about both the tragedy itself and how to deal with coping with tragedy and loss. We made it easy for staff members who wanted to donate blood for people who may be in the hospital that were survivors that may need it. We set up a donation opportunity for staff who wanted to donate to families in need as a result of the tragedy. So the library dropped off information about our EPOC, which is Electronic Preservation of Cultural History, at the local Gay and Lesbian Center, so people can contribute online information about victims of the tragedy and obituary type information for their families and their loved ones. We also sponsored, a couple weeks after the tragedy, we sponsored an announcement in Watermark, which is a local gay, lesbian, bisexual, and transgender community publication here for the Orlando area. We also had a link to all the city and county hashtags on our website, and our director provided a solidarity message to the victims on the library's webpage.
Ken mentioned EPOC, which is short for Electronically Preserving Obituaries as Cultural History. This is our online obituary database in which family and friends can submit detailed obituaries as a tribute to their loved ones, and in doing so, help build a meaningful history of the residents of our community. Here is the cover page for Luis Sergio Vilma's online obituary. He was one of the 49 who died at the Pulse nightclub. We created a web page listing resources on grief and coping with tragedy. Displays were created at all of our locations with materials on coping, healing, gay literature, and a colorful new and popular books displays, which was featured on the website I Work at a Public Library. We linked to the city and county hashtags on our website and offered a message of solidarity to the victims and their families. Hashtag Orlando Strong and hashtag Orlando United.
After the Pulse tragedy, management in the library made every accommodation to make sure that anyone that needed time off was given the opportunity to take the time off that they needed. Another important thing was that they were able to accommodate people that wanted to give blood, because a lot of people in the community responded by donating blood after the tragedy, and they made every accommodation to give everyone, the time to give blood. The other last thing is that the healthcare provider, United Healthcare, has a service called Optum, which they opened a 24-hour helpline staffed by mental health counselors. They were there 24/7 to help anybody that needed to talk about what happened or anything at all. They were just there to help.
In this next video, you will meet Colleen Hooks, our staff training and development specialist. And she is also president of the Library Staff Association, our staff enrichment group. She came to me and asked if the Staff Association could collect small portable food and drink items to bring to the families of the victims who were waiting for their relatives in the hospital. I quickly agreed, and the Staff Association spread the word without the system. Here's Colleen.
The Staff Association is our employee experience committee. We host team building events and fun activities for staff, but we also organize community service projects. When the tragedy at Pulse happened, basically in our backyard, we knew we had to do something. The LGBT Center of Central Florida was collecting items for families of victims, many of whom were here from out of town, sort of stuck in limbo while their loved ones were in the hospital. We reached out to the center to see what they needed and organized a collection drive for staff. The response was swift, and within a few days we had an entire carload of donations. We dropped them off, and when I got back to my desk, more boxes had been brought by. It was awesome. The folks from Circe Dynex were here for the ALA conference and brought us a generous amount of donations as well, which we really appreciated. Our second carload went to the Hope and Help Center of Central Florida. They run a food pantry as part of their services. The LGBT Center couldn't accommodate any more donations because the response from the community had been so great. It was really an incredible thing.
As Colleen mentioned, the food drive was very successful, with several hundred pounds of food collected for the LGBT Center of Central Florida and the Hope and Help Center of Central Florida, an AIDS awareness organization, who then distributed the food to the victims and their families. In addition to a $1,000 donation, library services vendor Circe Dynex contributed 30 bags of groceries and 28 large bottles of Gatorade to our staff association's drive in order to support the families and friends of the victims. Interestingly enough, Circe Dynex is not one of our vendors, so they came out of the blue and offered this donation to us as the local library for this area. Next, you will meet Kelly Williams, our graphics specialist, and Crystal Sullivan, one of our storytellers. They participated in the making of our video, the library's Keep Dancing Orlando. This was a widespread movement in which many organizations created dance videos to accompany Whitney Houston's song, I Want to Dance with Somebody. This was a positive and creative outlet to help the city of Orlando come together and heal through the power of dance. I think you'll like it.
I was really touched by all the support and love that people from all around the world have been showing Orlando and the community, and that really touched me. So I felt like when the library decided that we're going to do a video, I really had to be a part of it.
The library, our job is to help people. We're filled with helpers. We help people find answers to almost anything. The day that we danced and Keep Orlando Dancing, I feel that we helped our community through a very sad and tragic event. We helped them find a little happiness and hopefully a little peace.
Next, you'll hear from Melanie Higgins, who is one of our special projects coordinators for lifelong learning. She explains the project she worked on for our Orlando Memory Database, which features a section on the Pulse tragedy.
One of the things I was involved with was going to the Dr. Phillips Memorial site that they had for the Pulse victims and photographing some of the tributes that were created for the victims and putting them on Orlando Memory so future generations can see how we remembered those lost.
These are a few of the photos posted on our Orlando Memory website. Orlando Memory is a community-based digital collection of local heritage, and traditions. We encourage our citizens to be part of Central Florida history by adding their memories, photos, documents, videos, and anything else that can document their experience here in Central Florida. After the Library Association's annual conference in Orlando, one of our vendors, Gail Cengage, donated a mosaic banner that reads, "Orlando Strong." It was illustrated with photos contributed by more than 3,000 people who attended the American Library Association's meeting here this past June. It's a beautiful tribute, and we are very proud to have it displayed on the 5th floor of the main library downtown. We received donations from our vendor Overdrive on electronic resources about coping with death and tragedy. And we received a $1,000 cash donation from Circe Dynex. We also received a box of children's books on grief from the Chicago Public Library. We also received a $200 donation from Patty Henderson and the Hills Recreation Par 3 Golf League. The money went to purchase books on self-help, inspirational materials, and alternative lifestyles. Ms. Anderson is the Assistant Director of the Woodbridge Public Library in New Jersey, and she and her librarian golfing buddies got together and made this donation to the library. We were very touched by their thoughtfulness. Orange County Library System received a huge outpouring of support from around the globe. The Library of Birmingham in the UK had been lit up in the rainbow colors to show the city's solidarity with the victims of the Orlando shooting. The building was lit up as the sun set on June 13th and was followed by a vigil in Her Street at the heart of the city's gay quarter. The County of Los Angeles Library System posted their message of solidarity on their website. Teens who attended the New York Public Library's anti-prom wrote love letters to their counterparts at the Orlando Public Library. This anti-prom event is a safe space for teens who don't feel comfortable going to their high school proms. These notes were delivered to our Youth Services Department and are now on display in our Teen Central area. We also received a handmade card of support from the Oregon Library Association Support Staff Division, signed by all of their members. We collaborated with a local art supply store, Sam Flax, to exhibit the Paint Strong Orlando art exhibit. Paint Strong Orlando is a collection of original works of art created in response to the tragedy at the Pulse nightclub. Art supply store Sam Flax donated materials to artists who wanted to participate and form a collection of works dedicated to the victims. The Orlando Public Library will host this traveling exhibit of more than 260 pieces beginning in the month of September through October. In this next video, you will meet Michael Donahue, one of our community outreach coordinators, speaking about the Paint Strong art exhibit and the reception. He was one of the workers from the library who really organized the whole exhibit. And we'll hear again from Ken Joubert, our Hiawassee branch manager, about the exhibit.
We serve as a pretty vital part of this community, so I think we as a community have been very hurt by the events that happened at Pulse. So I think it's important for us as an institution to sort of help in the healing process that this city has sort of taken on in the wake of it.
I think it's good that we're hosting it because the library, is no longer just a collection of books. The library serves as an information center, also for not just on a national or international level, but on a local level. And the library, at least in my mind, is the first place that people would think of, should think of, and do think of to go to find out information. And it's a place where people can come together to grow, to learn, to heal, to feel like they're in a safe space. I think it's important that the library play that role in a community.
People come to the library on a daily basis just to come, go to events, check items out. It's a very public place for people to see it. So it was probably one of the better locations downtown for everyone in the community to get a chance to see all the art.
On September 15, 2016, the Orlando Public Library hosted a public reception for Paint Strong Orlando. Organized by local art supply store Sam Flax, Paint Strong is a collection of more than 260 works of art. All of the pieces were created with art supplies donated by Sam Flax to anybody who wanted to make a work of art that reflected the strength of the community in response to the June 12th shooting at Pulse nightclub that killed 49 people.
It's a sobering experience, hanging pieces on the wall, with names that are written and faces that you recognize of people that are no longer here. It's not an easy task. If there's anything to take away from that, I hope from tonight, it is that these walls have never looked brighter since I've been here, and they radiate with the light of 49 lives that passed way too soon. With Orlando being such a tight-knit community, you would be hard-pressed to find someone that wasn't directly affected by the events of June 12th. But since that day, our city has come together in ways that I don't believe any of us could have predicted. My hope is that tonight will continue the sense of unity and healing that pulses through the heart of this city.
To our artists, I say thank you for doing such an amazing job. You have helped people heal. You have spoken up for those who cannot speak. You are an example to us all. It is my hope that this collection will continue to shine a light on the spirit of Orlando.
Pulse was a place many of us called home. It was not only a place to dance and laugh and smile, but it was a place to feel safe, a place to be yourself, and a home of acceptance, no matter what you identified yourself as. As we come together today, we must ensure to honor the 49 lives which were taken from us on June 12, 2016, and remember to accept one another, love each other, and always remember we all have a pulse.
For us, the natural inclination was that we have at our disposal resources. So we thought, let's put these resources to use by offering local people to come in and create a piece of art. We didn't do a call to artists. You didn't have to be an artist. It was about saying, here are the supplies, go create something. So for my staff and myself, it was more about what could we do? This was the logical answer. This is what we can do.
My piece is multiple hands basically holding each other, trying to represent basically and they're colorful, they're not skin tones, they're like red and green and blues.
different colors representing different people coming together and just trying to represent a whole. Different colors don't mean that, you know, anything negative, coming together as one.
So I wanted to do something obviously that reflected a rainbow, but also that had a pulse. My pulse is called "The Pulse of Orlando Continues to Beat Strong," and so I just wanted to just throw something that had a pulse in it to show that with Orlando, of course, exemplifying that as well.
I was going to do hearts, and when I actually got to the canvas, which was a fairly large piece, 2 foot by 3 feet, I didn't feel like I could do that. It was very emotional, and it was a little on the darker side. But I wrote "Love is Love" 49 times at the top. There were black drips coming down on the left-hand side. There was a circle of black, and within the circle there were rainbow colors. So it was "Love is Love, light within the darkness."
It was emotional, definitely. Like, I came around the corner and saw my painting and I got teary. And actually while I was painting it, I pretty much had to hold back tears the whole time. I put like my soul into it. So it was emotional, but it was actually nice, and all the pieces are amazing.
I love that it was a wide age range, from little kids up to the elderly contributing. And I even agreed with a fellow artist when we were discussing the exhibit. What was nice is it wasn't juried. It wasn't in a competition, it was neutral. So everyone was expressing creativity, and there wasn't like a competition. It was more of bringing the whole community together.
The inspiration for my piece was actually the morning after the Pulse shooting. I got a phone call from my mother. She was crying. She said, "I heard about it. I know you guys don't go to clubs, so I know you're safe, but it really scares me that that could happen to you. That is the only thing about you being gay that has ever worried me, is I'm scared for your safety." I feel like participating in something like this is one small step closer to gathering everybody in the community, and just it's growing acceptance.
And you can feel the emotion. You could see people being touched by the artwork as they were looking at it. I think it definitely accomplished its purpose.
People put their heart into these pieces, and you can definitely see it. I mean, like, I'm an artist. I've been drawing and creating for a long time. So when I see people actually putting forth the effort and giving their all, and then have the ability to actually put it up there for display for the whole world, I mean, you got to be strong to do something like that.
It's an event that really is meant to bring people together, and after walking around and seeing all the inspiration and seeing so much love literally in each one of the paintings and seeing it in different people's faces, it definitely is something that brings people together.
I think it's a wonderful community role for the library to play, to host this and to host the opening. It just puts it in a different context than if it were in another type of venue. Just because libraries are so community oriented, and because this is the library for downtown, it's a great place to host this.
I'm very used to, even in my own hometown, how the libraries always try to contribute to the community where they can. So to me, it's kind of seems natural in a way, yet at the same time, it also brought more of a significance to the libraries going, even though we seem like we're a little niche in the corner, where we can make a big impact for the whole community.
Remember back in the day when you was in the library, the only thing you did was like read books, and I'm from Georgia, so it was like super country. So I don't think we did just go in there and just read and stuff like that. But for everybody to come here and as a community and be so, like I say, energetic and happy, I think that's amazing.
We were talking about that tonight. I think it was interesting. There was an article that I read today on libraries and how they're taking different steps to involve the public. And I think this is an exciting direction, especially we were commenting on the music that you usually don't hear in a library at that volume. So I think that libraries taking a different direction is kind of imperative.
It's been a long time since I've been here in the library, so I'll definitely be back.
From the night itself, I ran into a few artists. A lot of the pieces are large and heavy, so hanging all of them, I remember in my mind like, oh yeah, I know what this one was because it took forever to get it up on the wall and stuff. So I ran into a few of those artists who stopped me as I was walking around and said, thank you so much for doing this, thank you so much for displaying my piece, all of that thing. So it put a face to the art itself, and that was really important to me. And then just on a personal level, because it was such a large undertaking, once it was all over, that was a really big moment for me. You could, take a sigh of relief and say like, okay, people enjoyed it, people got something out of it, we did our job here.
Now we'll hear again from Ken Joubert, Ted Maines, Ben Garcia, and our board president, Lisa Francina, all speaking about how Orlando came together as a community.
People in Orlando have been amazingly kind in the wake of that to each other. My neighbors in my neighborhood, they would see me out in the yard the next couple of days and they would all come running over and ask how I was doing. They didn't even know if I knew anybody in that club or not, and they, some of them were like, oh, I'm so glad you weren't there and that you're okay. And I've been to that club, it's been a long time since I was at that club, but it was just amazing that, they recognized me as being part of that community. No matter what they may have thought, they were just so relieved that I was okay, and they wanted to know, had I been affected by it in any other way. And it doesn't seem, some people can get caught up in all the politics and personal opinions, and everybody has their opinion, and that's okay. But it was very heartwarming to see that in the wake of a tragedy, that people came together of all different kinds of backgrounds, all different kinds of political persuasions, and for the vast majority of them, it just didn't matter. It just that we were all joined as one pulse, I guess you would say, in that people just recognized the fact that people in our community were gone. And we all grieved together as one, and we all still continue to march forward together as one. And it'll take a while for us to pick up the pieces, both as an LGBT community and as an Orlando community. But I think that we're all marching together in the right direction, and that's been very heartwarming to see.
The community came together in a way that showed the world that Orlando is truly a place where we have a sense of community, a sense of pride. It was a terrible situation. It was the worst mass killing in the United States. But the love, the outpouring of love from the community for the victims, for the survivors, for the people that were affected by this, and it was pretty much everyone in town was affected in some way or another. The community came together and it showed the world that Orlando is a strong community and has a great group of people living here. And there's a lot of love in Orlando.
The community in Orlando has always been pretty tight. It seems tighter now. It seems stronger. People are not judging anybody anymore. It's almost like the amount of love is just overwhelming. There's no boundaries as black or white or gay or straight. We're all one community right now.
It was really heartwarming to know that people would step up and be there for each other. I've been living in Orlando for 25 years. It was a lot smaller community when I moved here, but it's still small. And the longer I'm here, the smaller it seems and the more close-knit. I was not familiar with Pulse nightclub, and I was surprised how many of my friends were and had frequented Pulse, had friends that went to Pulse. So it just made the community, even more smaller and close-knit for me. And I think this feeling of wanting to support everybody who went through this, just living here, I don't see how you could not be affected by this. Whether you knew, I was lucky enough not to know any of the victims. But I know so many people that were affected by it, and just as a citizen of Orlando and Orange County, I don't know how you could not be affected by it. and not just be heartbroken that this could happen here of all places. But it's had a really positive effect on the community. I think that people are really thinking about looking out for each other and how can I help and, bring something good out of this tragedy.
In conclusion, I would like to think that the Pulse killings would not define Orlando, but rather the supportive way in which many organizations and individuals came to define Orlando as an open and accepting community and cement the Orange County Library System's role in community building. Thank you.